Are you listening?
Welcome to the Nerf Report. My name is Brian. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We have a lot to talk about. Nintendo has revealed that the Nintendo Switch has surpassed the NES to become the second best-selling console in Nintendo history. Pokemon Go has generated over $4 billion in revenue since the launch of the game. Dedicated servers for Friday the 13th, the game, are shutting down. And BioWare has announced the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which features remastered versions of the original Mass Effect trilogy. But despite all of that, for this week's episode, let's talk about Google Stadia. As we are officially a week and a half away from the 1-year anniversary of the launch of Google Stadia. So I thought it would be very beneficial to stop and look back at the last 12 months of Stadia and where the service might go next. And look, I get it. For some of you watching this, it might be news to you, but yes, Google Stadia is still alive and officially a year old. And those 12 months can be broken down in a lot of different ways. If you are a Stadia founder since day one, you have received a total of 52 games for an overall value of $1,368 worth of games. And for the founders, that came at an expense of $70. And granted, Stadia founders received roughly 2 free months due to COVID on top of the first 3 months, but needless to say, even at $9.99 a month, spending $100 to get more than 10 times your value is an incredible deal. These last 12 months can also be marked by 13 timed and platform exclusives coming to Stadia. We got games like the fantastic horror game Guilt, the extremely funny firefighting simulator Ember. We expanded our horizons with Crata, which, shameless plug here, I made a game called The Floor is Lava, and I checked this morning, over 30,000 people have played that game. So if you haven't checked it out yet, after this video, I've put a link in the description down below. Please give it a check and let me know what you think. But we also had games like Super Bomberman R Online, Get Packed, Lost Words, Serious Sam 4, and a game that is in contention for my personal game of the year, Orcs Must Die 3. And when you start to count all of the games that are available on Google Stadia, the platform has grown its library of 22 games available at launch to having over 105 games at the time of recording this. And just to reiterate, we still have a week and a half until Stadia's birthday, so they could drop 5 more games in that time period just to round out that number. But the important thing to note here is that in Stadia's first year as a platform, they launched 105 games. Now compare that to the PlayStation 4, who launched 78 games in their first 12 months of the console, or the Xbox One, who launched 58 games during their first 12 months as a console. In fact, the only current-gen platform to outperform Google Stadia was the Nintendo Switch, who launched 111 games, 6 more than Google Stadia. So Jade, Phil, or whoever at Stadia is watching this, you are 6 games away. Surprise us. Now, in all seriousness, I bring up this point because despite Google Stadia launching 105 games during the last 12 months, the platform is still categorized as unpopular among gaming influencers, which if you're trying to figure out if this platform's for you, I've got to level with you. That is the furthest thing from the truth. Popular gaming influencer and senior editor at The Verge, Tom Warren, wrote this Destiny 2 patch note, as if anyone has 100 friends on Stadia. Well, as a newly welcomed member to the Stadia 100 Club, allow me to address how incorrect this tweet is. Because at various times during this week, my Stadia friends list is well over 100 plus players playing online. Hundreds of people playing different games on Google Stadia. Now, we should point out that Tom Warren was quick to tweet out afterwards, "I'm sorry to all these Stadia fans, yes they exist, that can't take a joke." No, Tom, that wasn't a joke. That was just a poor excuse for journalism. And I also think that it should be pointed out that Google Stadia is a free console, with both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X costing nearly $500, whereas with Google Stadia, you have a next-gen console available to you for free, which is an extremely important point to make here, because despite what you have heard, Google Stadia is free. You can use your smartphone, tablet, laptop, PC, Chromecast. Hell, somebody on Reddit got Stadia running on their smart fridge. But the fact is, with Stadia, you buy the games you want to play. And added bonus, if you want to play online with your friends, you don't need to pay for an extra membership like PS Plus or Xbox Live. You literally just buy the game. So from a value perspective, whether you play with Stadia Pro or not, the platform is a massive value to any gamer. And if we want to talk about performance, well, that is going to 100% depend on your local internet. Me, I'm privileged to have 300 megabit up and 300 megabit down. And since day one of Stadia, I've never had any issues with playing games on this service. Actually, this is something that we hit on during my first review, that when you play Stadia for the first time, it almost seems unreal. In fact, there's this quote from Arthur C. Clarke which says, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And I think that's a really good way to describe playing games on Stadia. Quite frankly, it's magical. Because despite not having a physical console sitting in front of me, Google Stadia runs just as well as any other platform that I've used. And this is something that we've covered here quite a bit, but Stadia not only plays the games, it outperforms many of the current gen and next gen consoles with load times as well. So when looking back on, the last 12 months, I have to admit, it's been pretty awesome. Sure, there were dips and valleys just like any platform has. But I think if you approach this with the simple question of, is Stadia better now than it was 12 months ago? The answer is unequivocally yes. And optimistically, I have to say, it's only going to get better. And to someone who is new to Stadia that might be watching this and is unaware of the most recent developments, Stadia has announced 45 games that are currently in development for the platform. On top of that, Stadia has exclusive development deals with studios like Harmonix, the team behind Guitar Hero, and Supermassive Games, the studio behind the fantastic Dark Pictures anthology. And if that isn't enough, Stadia has 3 exclusive development studios around the world that are currently hard at work on developing exclusive games for Google Stadia. And I get it, this is going to be super cliche to say, but the future is extremely bright for Google Stadia. And please, do not just take my word for that. Go check out some of the other people that are actually playing this console. Stadia is home to some fantastic content creators, Let's Play channels, and live streamers who deserve way more credit than they actually get. And if you're a fan of podcasts, well, like everything else in the world, Stadia has a ton of them. The Stadia community has some extremely well done podcasts to indulge yourself in as well, and I highly recommend you check them out. But as we do with every episode, I want to close this out by hearing, what you have to think. Have you played Google Stadia? What has your experience been like? What is your hope for year 2? And what do you think it's going to have in store for the platform? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thanks again for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw and you want to see more content just like it, definitely subscribe and check out all of our other videos. If you don't, well, the internet's going to explode. That's right, you heard it here first. If you don't click that subscribe button, the internet will implode. What are you waiting for? Save the world.